Okay, welcome to all of you. Welcome to this EDHEC webinar on the 5-step journey to leverage internal corporate social media to boost employee engagement. So the webinar will revolve around one key question: how can we leverage social media to enhance employee engagement? So actually, the key takeaways of this webinar will be the following. First of all, there is a kind of framework that I suggest and that will participate to the mobilization of social media to enhance employee engagement. And there is a kind of a new analytics dashboard for HR managers that they can leverage to reach this goal. So it is my pleasure to welcome all of you. My name is Mohamed-Hédi Charki. I'm a professor of information system at EDHEC Business School. In order to present this webinar, I will use my own research and other research. I will use examples of from different companies, and I'll also be very pleased to welcome our guest speaker, Senda Boukef from Primeur, who will give us the pleasure to tell us different experiences with social media at Primeur. I want to thank all those who supported this initiative, mainly my colleagues Amandine Badel and Christophe Roquy from EDHEC Business School. So actually, there will be somehow a kind of an interactivity during this webinar. There will be 3 polls. We are going to have a session of questions and answers. And in the meantime, if you have any question that you would like to be answered at the end of the webinar, please do not hesitate to insert it in the chat. Okay, so one key important disclaimer before starting. So the webinar is about how corporate internal social media can be leveraged to boost employee engagement. And this idea started from an initiative taken by EDHEC Business School in order to enable to different colleagues from different disciplines to help companies deal with the current crisis. So what I'm going to say, of course, will be, I hope, valid to help managers deal with the current situation, but it will not only be limited from a temporal standpoint just to the current crisis. So it will be, of course, valid for this during this crisis, but I hope also meaningful after the crisis when things will go back to normal. Okay, so let's move. So actually, what is the key challenge of today? And the key challenge is how to boost employee engagement during this period. And why do we care about employee engagement? Actually, significant amount of empirical research has shown that employee engagement is fundamental for companies' profitability. According to a recent Gallup survey, companies who succeed in reaching a better levels of employee engagement achieve 21% higher in terms of profitability comparing to those companies in the bottom. So actually, what happens is that employee engagement is fundamental. You know, when your people come to your organization to do their day-to-day job just for the paycheck they are going to have at the end of the month, you cannot expect from these your employees to achieve radical transformation, radical creativity, and important performance that all managers are looking for. Okay, so employee engagement is absolutely necessary. At the same time, employee engagement is not a static outcome. It is, I mean, you can have a low level of employee engagement that can be enhanced, and you can also have a high level of employee engagement that can go down. So at the end of the day, employee engagement is not static, it's dynamic, okay? So many managers actually are afraid now that many employees were sent home for remote work, are afraid, okay, what happens to my employee engagement? How can I maintain it? How can I boost it? So this is one of the main reasons of this webinar: how leaders can boost the employee engagement in this period of crisis. And again, as I said initially, the outcomes are hopefully going to be valid even after the end of the crisis. Now, the way to do so is by leveraging corporate social media. This is my key suggestion. And so, and it will go beyond, the technical implementation of corporate social media. It will necessitate a kind of a different mindset, different approach. And this is what the framework that I will be happy to share with you will be about. So I know that many of you may be familiar with the concept of corporate social media, but I will be asking just a few questions to make sure whether our participants are aware about this concept of corporate social media. But before doing so, let me welcome our guest speaker. Senda, thank you very much for joining us. It is a pleasure to have you. Senda, can you please introduce yourself and Primeur to our audience?
Okay, thank you, Hedi, for the invite. So I'm really excited to be here. Primeur is a multinational Swiss company present in many countries, so Italy, Switzerland, France, Spain, Tunisia, etc. We are specialized in data integration, enterprise data integration for more than 30 years. I'm leading the Tunis office of Primeur, and I'm also product director at the group level. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so actually, internal corporate social media. To make it simple, it's like Facebook, but Facebook that is used within organizational boundaries. So according to the key definition of Leonardo and Vass, so enterprise corporate social media is about computer-mediated tools of the Web 2.0 generation that make it possible for anyone, I mean anyone in the organization, from the CEO to frontline employees, actually to create, circulate, share, and exchange information in a variety of formats and with multiple audience. So in a variety of formats, it can be audio, it can be video, it can be text, it can be with multiple communities. It can be their teammates, other co-workers from different departments. Okay, so this is what internal corporate social media is about. And I would like, please, to launch a first poll just to make sure whether how many amongst you have internal corporate social media that is being used by their company. So actually, by internal corporate social media, it is not just limited to one specific technology. So, or all things like Workplace by Facebook, Chatter from Salesforce, Yammer from Microsoft, Jive. Things like Slack, like Teams, all like Confluence, for instance. All these are kinds of social media. So let me start the first poll. I want to figure out, please, how many of you have an enterprise corporate social media, and how many do not have it, and how many think that there is kind of a plan to implement a corporate social media. Okay, so it seems that we have a tech-savvy audience. All of you have organizations that use corporate social media. This is great. Thank you. So let me turn now to the second quick poll, and the question will be: do you feel that until now corporate social media has somehow had an impact on your engagement? Has it contributed to limited or to a large degree to your in the own engagement? Okay, so it seems that 100%, oh no, it is moving. So actually we have 50% for now, the moderate impact, 30% low impact, 17% with an important impact. Let's wait 10 more seconds before closing the poll. Okay, thank you. So it seems that for most of you, it has corporate social media has had a low impact on your engagement or a moderate impact. Only 29% feel that it has an important impact on your engagement, but 71% think that it had limited, moderate or limited impact. So I hope that at the end of this webinar, you will realize the extent to which corporate social media can help your organization, can be mobilized in a way to really boost engagement in a significant way. So actually, corporate social media has started to be implemented in different organizations many years ago. I think that there are at least 10 years since the beginning of 2010 that different corporations have started the first trials of implementing corporate social media. And actually, during this time, the main expectations were that we bring corporate social media in order to enable employees to collaborate, to enhance knowledge sharing, to enhance sharing of best practices, at the same time enhancing creativity, as I'm going to enable different co-workers from different departments, different business units, and even different countries and geographic zones to interact with each other, to mix their ideas. So we were expecting for additional creativity. It was also expected to enhance the connection between unconnected people and the organization and connected divisions, etc., as there are somehow gaps between different divisional units, between different departments. So corporate social media was thought to be the ground to do it, and also at the end to somehow break hierarchical silos and walls that exist within one company, where you have some kind of homophily, where you have I don't know, salespeople with salespeople, marketing with marketing, accountants with accountants, etc. So with corporate social media, it was expected to help break these silos and to enable different folks within the organization to talk to their peers and co-workers without any limit. So this was actually the aim, but in many cases, the corporate social media did not pay off. Why it did not pay off? Because we thought that the technology will do everything by itself. I mean, we thought that, okay, let's bring a corporate social media, let's implement Yammer, Workplace, Jive, etc., and then things will go just in a natural way, and all these advantages will happen in a natural way. And so this is one of the key things that I want to put the emphasis on, that actually having the right technology is fantastic, but you need to have the right culture with it, the right mindset with it, and the right way of strategizing for the use of the technology in question. And this is the thing that we'll put the stress on, how somehow to strategize to leverage corporate social media to reach an important goal. The goal of the day is employee engagement. So bottom line, technology is fundamental, of course, but technology without culture is meaningless. And also, if you have culture without the right technology, then also it can be hard to achieve your goals. So the framework that I am proposing is based on 5 key pillars. They are authenticity, humility, diversity, curiosity, and the networking. So I'm going to dig in each one of them and then explain to you how HR managers and CEOs can somehow develop a kind of new HR analytics in order to be able not just to try to reach these goals, but also measure them. Okay, let's move. So the first pillar actually is authenticity, and I do believe that the first thing that employees and workers are expecting from their organization now in these days, during these hectic moments with a significant amount of uncertainty, is to have a kind of authenticity in the organizational discourse. So actually, as you know, many organizations, in order to communicate with their workers, notably when you have multinationals with hundreds and even thousands of employees, many of them use email, they use intranet, which is okay to communicate with your workers. However, it's a kind of employees can feel that it is a kind of a corporate jargon that is used, and we cannot actually feel the extent to which managers are somehow sincere and are authentic in the messages that they are spreading. So corporate social media can be leveraged by managers to show their authenticity. For instance, on corporate social media, a CEO can record a video and not just limit him or herself to an email or to a post on intranet. He or she can record a video that will be and that will enable actually to show his or her emotions as he or she is speaking about the strategy to deal with the crisis, as he or she is giving solutions or a pragmatic approach to deal with the crisis. We can feel this through corporate social media, and employees can react to this. So what happens is that leaders can show their emotions, and this makes sense. And makes the difference when it comes to employees who can feel the emotions, as emotions are somehow contagious. Research show that on social media, there is a kind of a contagion, as participants to social media can figure out your emotions and also be somehow positively contaminated by these emotions. And also what happens is that managers can be more persuasive by broadcasting their messages using video that can be live or that can be recorded on social media. So this is actually the first pillar when it comes to authenticity. You can leverage corporate social media in order for managers to show that they are authentic, that they are sincere when they talk to their employees. Senda, and I know that you have interesting things to tell us when it comes to your experience at Primeur.
So first, let me give you some background. A big part from our team is based in Italy, in the north of Italy, and especially in Milan. So you can imagine that when the crisis has started, we outside of Italy used to watch the news and see all the terrible stories about the country which is struggling to fight the virus. And the day after, colleagues are on time for meetings, working as usual, and even with more productivity. And one of them said that working hard was a way to keep a sense of normality. So, and this eventually served as an example for when the crisis impacted other countries. So regarding authenticity, one thing that we did that matches this is the internal newsletter that we launched. That was the first time that we launched this. So it was fully digital through our social media. It included a video from our CEO, Stefano Musso. And the message was really authentic, sincere. He was at home, etc. So it really resonated with all of us, and it had quite a positive impact, that's for sure. The newsletter was new, so this is the first time. So as far as I know, this is the first time we ran it. However, authenticity is something that we have already seen, and the best example of this is the last CEO speech in the convention, December 2019, so not that far away. During the speech, he told us about his failures, personal failures, and how these failures paved his journey, led him to where he is. So it was a simple speech, but extremely powerful and impactful because it was authentic. So we are not adapting after just after the crisis, it's something that we had in place. One other example that I heard from some of my ex-colleagues is web conferences organized by their leaders to share like a virtual coffee break where children were invited. So it was the opportunity to have all the team together with their families at their homes and to share some authentic interactions. And I think it was also a good idea.
Okay, thank you very much, Senda. We appreciate. So let's move to the second pillar. So the second pillar actually is humility. So when it comes to humility, corporate social media can make the difference. But before digging in corporate social media, let me stress something important. Since the 1950s, Herbert Simon, a Nobel Prize winner, said that the cognitive capacities of managers is limited, and managers cannot anticipate absolutely all the future scenarios that can happen. And today in 2020, despite the significant evolution in technology and in predictive analytics techniques, of course, no one on earth was able to predict what happened. So it shows something that is important, that even the most creative, the most powerful managers were unable to predict what is going on. So it is a kind of an invitation of a kind of humility that all of us know that, generally speaking, managers, high-level executives are those who are expected to bring new strategies to show the direction to the rest of the employees. And the new thing here that I'm suggesting is that it is time for managers to somehow recognize, of course, that they are expected, of course, to find solutions, but that their cognitive capacities are limited, and that they need somehow people from the frontline office, from the frontline level, in order to help them to somehow co-create new solutions and original solutions. So, and corporate social media actually can be mobilized in order to invite frontline employees, those who we rarely call, for to help in making strategic decisions, but actually we can help. We can ask them to take part to conversation, to a new digital conversation where we can share ideas, brainstorm ideas, and these ideas can be very helpful. One interesting company, a Japanese company, Lexel, profited from corporate social media in order to change the direction of the conversation by bringing frontline employees in order to make their voices being heard by managers, decision makers, and by research and development laboratories. So it is, I think, social media can be a game-changing event, but it's not the technology in itself that will change the game. It's the way managers can use it to invite proactively frontline employees to suggest ideas, to suggest solutions. Guys, we don't have solutions now. We want to move forward. Do you have ideas? You are in front of our customers, of our consumers, of our clients. How to do? What are your creative solutions? And research shows, for instance, interesting research in Academic Finance Journal by Hackmans and Owens showed that humility helps moving forward team performance. Okay, at the end of the day, once we get this, and if the bonus of this, that the managers can recognize publicly on corporate social media the positive impact that somehow frontline employees can have on their decisions, the performance of their companies, this will be a huge boost for these employees to engage further in the organization. So leverage corporate social media to change the direction of the conversation and in order to co-create original new solutions. Senda, what about Primeur? I think that I cannot hear you.
No, I'm sorry. I was on mute. So no, definitely we use social media to share such messages. And this is something that definitely helps in boosting engagement, motivating people, so that they feel, you know, completely engaged in achieving the goals of the company.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. So actually, the third pillar of the framework is about diversity. Many organizations and many chief human resource officers have diversity on their agenda. We need to enhance diversity in our corporation. This is something that is valid for many corporations. But paradoxically, despite this enthusiasm, many of diversity initiatives fail. Why? Because employees feel that they're somehow top-down initiatives. They don't feel significant amount of sincerity in these initiatives. An interesting Harvard Business Review article in 2016 by Dobin and Kolev showed that most of diversity initiatives fail. So the solution, one of the solutions that I'm suggesting, that we can leverage corporate social media to bring diversity. How to do it? One way of doing this is to encourage non-work connection on corporate social media. So first thing, we know all, of course, that corporate social media was brought somehow to the workplace in order to reach professional goals. Creativity, productivity, efficiency, etc. This is great, and we need to continue on doing this. However, what happened in an unexpected way, many employees profited from the corporate social media to weave ties with each other about non-work topics. I mean, you will. I worked on this context. So, and in my research, I found that employees can connect on the professional corporate social media, but to talk on something outside the job. We can have common passions like guitar, like mountain climbing, like soccer, like a lot of things. And this conversation that is non-work oriented, but between coworkers, can occur on social media. And so what happens is that this creates an organic and sincere connection between different co-workers who belong to different hierarchical levels, who belong to different business units, to different departments, and who weave ties through common points that they were unaware of. So before corporate social media, I can be unaware of that my co-worker shares the same passion as me. But as I can figure this out through corporate social media, this can be an interesting way for me to build new connections. And these new connections by themselves will be diversified, because they won't follow a hierarchical line, but they will follow somehow non-work passions. My research in this area showed that with a recent paper with my colleagues Nabila Sangsok, Ajay, and Lionel, we found that when employees give and take on corporate social media, I mean, what do I mean by give and take? Give when I contribute with my knowledge, and take when I receive creative ideas coming for social media. So when employees give and take non-work knowledge on social media, this enhances their organizational commitment. So diversity can be also reached thanks to the capacity of corporate social media to boost corporate transparency, as we have a kind of transparency in the messages that are shared, on which people comment, and people can react, to which people can react. This can provide better transparency by bringing different opinions from different fields. So at the end of the day, diversity is eased by corporate social media, as it is the case notably for corporations with different employees from different cultural backgrounds, different geographic zones. So at the end of the day, this enhances significantly diversity on corporate social media. So this was actually the third step in the journey.
Okay, I may give a few words about it. So
okay, go ahead.
So at Primeur, we like to define ourselves as unconventional. So the word is unconventional. People who join the company come from very different backgrounds, very different geographies, and this provides, an incredible value. I mentioned earlier the internal newsletter. So it was also the opportunity for some colleagues to share personal stories, to share their hobbies and passions outside of work. And it makes you feel you want to hear more from them. So I'm looking forward for the next coffee break with these colleagues to, start new discussions on things I didn't know before. So for me, it's something that is important, and I see the impact in in our day-to-day life. And again, this is not new. So several colleagues used to share their hobbies and passions on corporate social media. So we know some of the stuff of, that people like. And some of them even used to share some activities like cycling and so on. So it's something that is really good for productivity and strengthening the ties between colleagues. So definitely agree.
Thank you so much. Okay, so the fourth pillar of my work is curiosity. So actually, when it comes to curiosity, it's about helping employees become more curious by trying to figure out, okay, what's going on in my organization, what are the potential new projects, what my colleagues are doing, what are the new initiatives that we are working on, so and that I can develop from scratch in my organization. So corporate social media can be somehow leveraged by organizations in order to help employees boost their creativity. A significant amount of research showed that curiosity is somehow the prerequisites of creativity at organization. One of my co-authors, Spencer Harrison from NCI, did a very nice work on curiosity, and one of his research and his papers in Academic Journal, 2017 paper with Karen Dasinger, he showed that curiosity helps employees actually give and get feedback, which participate to, at the end of the day, better creativity from employees. So creativity is important, and it is triggered actually by curiosity. And so in order to further curiosity, companies can use corporate social media by giving meaning on it. But for instance, by launching competitions for about curiosity, by launching initiatives, but also enabling what I call psychological safety. And Edmondson has an interesting very work on psychological safety that shows the extent to which people feel safe when they try something new, when they are curious about something outside of their comfort zone. So if you on corporate social media, of course we need to say things that make sense, but we need also to make it somehow a safe place where people can can be curious, can be creative, without somehow risking kind of retaliation by the manager. Why did you say this? It was not inappropriate. It was not part of your job. So helping in ensuring this climate of psychological safety helps boosting creativity at organizations. And it helps employees actually, as employees are going to become more curious, this will not happen from scratch. Actually managers need to somehow weave the path, the way for their employees to become more curious. But for instance, by asking feedback, by asking in a proactive way feedback from their peers on corporate social media, employees will engage in giving feedback, and so it will be somehow a two-way direction, reciprocity, giving feedback from between managers and employees on corporate social media. And at the end of the day, this will help employees feel, yeah, they are asking for my feedback. Even though I am a frontline employee, my voice does matter. So actually, corporate social media, the fantastic thing with it is that it gives voice to every single one in the organization. We know that the usual suspects, top executives, top managers, have already had a voice, okay? But now it's time to give a voice to absolutely the rest of the employees and even the frontline ones in order to be able to to profit from their curiosity to help their engagement. So this was the fourth pillar of the framework. Now let's move to the Senda, something to add on this?
Yeah, just a couple of examples here. So every new hire gets a welcome package with a small card from the management inviting him or her to bring new ideas and innovate. So we set the stage from the beginning because we know this is key to our success. Every year, we also launch a challenge that we call If I Were the Boss. So what would you do if you were the boss? So we do this also through social media, and every single employee can participate and the winning idea gets implemented. So this is also an interesting thing that we do to involve everyone in changing things.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. So now networking, how to strategize for networking. So here what happens is that social media is somehow a corporate social network. And actually what happens is that for many organizations, when we implement into corporate social media, networking with the new colleagues will somehow occur in a natural and magic way. No. Actually, research in different fields, including sociology and management, showed what we call tendency for human beings for homophily. What does it mean, homophily? Homophily means that we build ties with those who are similar to us. I mean, for instance, marketing will stick to marketing people, sales to sales, accounting to accounts, R&D to R&D, etc. Okay, and actually we need to strategize for networking. I mean, if I want to leverage corporate social media in order to enhance my employees' engagement through the enabling of better networking opportunities in order to have new connections between employees from different fields, different backgrounds, different business units, and different divisions. Actually, this will not occur from scratch. And companies need to strategize for it somehow by creating events that can mix different employees from different backgrounds. But I spoke earlier about non-work events, but we can organize, for instance, contests. We can organize competition for most creative ideas, like the one Senda talked about. And these actually, at the end of the day, will enable to create new networks, new connections. Actually, it will enable what Paul Leonardi calls new meta knowledge, who knows whom and who knows what. Okay, this will be something very important to that employees actually extend their ambient awareness of what's going on in the organization, of what my colleagues are doing, and who are the contacts of my colleagues, and how can I join an ongoing conversation between different colleagues on different topics in my organization. So at the end of the day, by doing so, managers and HR leaders can create new high quality connection on social media, because the research shows that many of the connections on social media are weak connections, and by leveraging corporate social media in a strategic and meaningful way, we can enhance the strength of this connection and make them pay off. And a lot of research actually that occurred not in corporate social media, but in normal social media, but I think it is relevant also in corporate social media, showed that social media paradoxically also can be a sign of loneliness. And what I'm willing to say here is that we have also loneliness at work. We can have a situation where some employees are isolated. They don't talk, they don't exchange with their peers or with their co-workers for different reasons, psychological reasons. This situation can be one reason, or they can not talk because they don't belong to the same different to the same business unit, or they are in a different geographic area. A lot of reasons can exist. At the end of the day, what I'm willing to say that corporate social media can somehow break this loneliness at work. It can help to give a hope for all employees. Hey, you are part of the organization. We need your voice. You have something to say, suggest, and even though these are somehow gloomy days, yes, please give us your contribution, your suggestions to make things go in the right direction. So corporate social media at the end of the day can be leveraged to enhance the way ties are enabled, are managed at work. So at the end of the day, these 5 pillars actually can contribute to enhance corporate social media. They can contribute to enhance engagement through the mobilization of corporate social media. And again, corporate social media is a technology, and technology alone cannot do anything. It is the technology and the behavior that you associate with the technology. Senda, anything to add at this stage, or can we move forward?
Go ahead, Hédi.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So, so this is actually the framework, and for your information, this framework can be measured. Actually, I am going to show you a kind of a new dashboard that I suggest for managers and mainly for HR people, that they can somehow measure the different components of the framework that I just presented. The one thing that I want you to be aware of is that most of HR leaders and the managers, they put the stress until now on what I call the emerging aspect of the iceberg. I mean, a lot of managers, want to see, for instance, diversity. Okay, they want to see better conversation in the workplace. But these are only the emerging aspects of the iceberg. The hidden side of the iceberg that a lot of managers are unaware of are the ties that are created between different employees. So the ties here, different numbers represent different employees. According to your situation of the connections of your employees, you can have different outcomes. Why? Because different networks, dense network, do not contribute to the same outcomes as, for instance, scattered network. So the dashboard I'm going to show you now can help managers in order actually to figure out the 5 pairs that I spoke about. So this is the new dashboard for a new HR analytics that I am suggesting. So I am going to somehow scratch the surface of some technical jargon that I borrow from social network analytics area. So please, if you feel uncomfortable with anything, just insert your question in the chat. So the first one, authenticity. Authenticity can be measured through what we call closeness centrality. What does it mean, closeness centrality? Closeness centrality from a network standpoint means the extent to which it is easy for a node, and here by a node I am talking specifically about one employee. So the extent to which it is easy for one employee to reach all the rest of the employees in the organization in the fewest possible steps. Okay, so this is closeness centrality. Okay, and then something else, also reciprocity. Reciprocity, the extent to which there is a kind of reciprocity that I can measure through what I call system data from corporate social media. So what you need to know is actually corporate social media, there is a huge amount of unexplored data. I'm going to talk about something corporate social media community managers know a lot. When you have and implement social media, you have kind of a dashboard. Normally, normal users do not have access to dashboard, but community managers, they have access to a dashboard. And the dashboard that goes with corporate social media is pretty descriptive. It's about number of posts, number of comments, number of likes per employees, etc. It's interesting to know, but this does not give absolutely an idea about the most important outcomes of a corporate social media that I already highlighted. So there are techniques that can enable HR leaders and managers to extract this digital data from the system of corporate social media, and I can know who talks to whom, who connects to whom, who likes whom, who posts on whom, etc. Who is with or in what kind of group with whom, etc. Is this group a work group or non-work group? So I can have access to connections, to connection data, thanks to the digital system data of corporate social media. And once this data is available, you can do fantastic things, and you can develop such HR analytics. So to go back to the previous pillar, with the data coming from social media, I can figure out better closeness centrality, and I can figure out reciprocity. If I follow someone, is there somehow a reciprocity? He or she will follow me. Is there kind of a reciprocity? If someone, for instance, sends a message to for instance, a frontline employee comment on a top executive, are we going to have a kind of reciprocity or not? These can show the level of authenticity. Do we have managers on corporate social media who are sharing their ideas, their interrogations on corporate social media, and who are reacting to the comments, suggestions of all employees, including frontline employees? So these can be assessed quantitatively thanks to the system data. The second pillar is humility. So actually, what I suggested is to profit from corporate social media to change the direction of conversation. All of us know that, generally speaking, information is somehow top-down. Actually, managers send the information, the way to go to employees, including frontline employees, and frontline employees to connect to managers in order to know what to do. On social media, we can do the opposite. So this is what I mean actually by out degree centrality and in degree centrality. So out degree centrality used to be the case mainly of managers. So you have different different employees who send the ties to managers. So managers receive incoming ties, incoming connections from the rest of the employees. Okay, and and actually, when this is in degree centrality, out degree centrality means that the employee at the center, he or she sends ties, connections to managers to ask about information, to ask about the policy, the way to proceed, etc. What I suggest is that we can do the opposite. I mean, on corporate social media, I can figure out whether the in-degree centrality of my frontline employees has augmented or not, and whether the out-degree centrality of my managers, I mean, the have my managers become more curious to know more about frontline employees on corporate social media. So this means that my managers will give their questions to the employees rather than the opposite. So through these two short examples, I can figure out the extent to which humility is in place, thanks to the data enabled by my corporate social media. The third pillar, diversity, and here I am suggesting a couple of things. Diversity that occur on groups on social media that are work oriented, and on groups on social media that are non-work oriented. So on both of these groups, actually, we can figure out the extent to which we are somehow reproducing the same thing that exists offline or not. So what happens is that in some organizations that did not succeed with their corporate social media, what happened that they only reproduced what they have offline online. I mean, those who used to talk to each other offline, they reproduce the same situation online. So for instance, you have employees from the same department who have ties in the offline world and who reproduce their ties in the online world. And this is not really diversity. Diversity is when you leverage corporate social media to bring new ties with colleagues, workers, remote workers who have different backgrounds, different division, different business units, etc. So and we can through different indexes and metrics like the EI index, for instance, in the social network area, social network analytics area, we can figure out whether we have ties between employees who are similar to each other or between employees who are different, and there we are going to be able to figure out concretely diversity, whether diversity is here or not. The fourth pillar actually is curiosity. Curiosity is when I can calculate it through a social the data from social media in a somehow indirect way through things like brokerage centrality or between centrality. So brokerage is when an employee in the middle connects two communities that are otherwise unconnected. When someone, for instance, talk to two different communities, he or she talk to people from sales and talk to people from finance, people from accounting, and people from research and development, etc. The more you connect communities that are unconnected, the more you enhance your capacity to become more creative and more successful, because the more you are going to enhance your creativity. A lot of research showed that brokerage centrality is associated with a better creativity, and we cannot become a broker if we are not curious. If I'm not curious to learn more about my colleagues from different departments, from different areas, I'm not going to become a broker. So you need to be curious in order to somehow become a broker and to enhance your creativity. The same thing holds for between centrality, which is a kind of different form of brokerage. Is how many times am I as a node on the shortest path between two other employees? Okay. So by calculating between centrality, thanks to the data, the corporate social media data, we can figure out the extent to which curiosity is actually in place at my organization. The last and fifth one is actually about the notion of networking. And actually what happens is that by, again, metrics from corporate social media data, we can figure out the to what my network looks like. I mean, we can figure out whether we have kind of significant modularity. I somehow reproduce in different echo chambers on social media different groups that exist already offline. I mean, do we reproduce the offline structure on corporate social media? And this was the case of different organizations, where you have, for instance, top executives who reproduce an online group, a closed online group on corporate social media. Of course, I'm not saying that they don't need to do this. They can do this, of course. But if you only create such kind of closed groups on corporate social media, I mean, at the end of the day, you are not obtaining the ideal outcomes from corporate social media, and you are not changing the situation. You are only replicating your offline structure on corporate social media. And this can be calculated. Modularity can be calculated thanks to social network analytic techniques. The last one is cohesion. Cohesion can be calculated, and it will show the extent to which we can have somehow scattered networks on corporate social media, or do we have dense networks? Dense network, of course, are more interesting, because with dense network, you can imagine that all things being equal elsewhere, you are going to have an easier job and less efforts to pursue if you want to implement a change management program, if you want to have a new technology, if you want to transform your organization. Corporations that enjoy more cohesive networks, research showed that these corporations, these teams are more able to implement in a more successful and easy way new projects and new initiatives. So bottom line, at the end of the day, I was willing to show you actually how the different pillars of the framework that I suggested, actually they can be measured, and HR managers and executives can actually leverage this knowledge in order to fashion new strategies. in order to figure out where whether they are on the right path, or they should somehow change the way they strategize for their corporate social media. So bottom line, having corporate social media was the case of all of you. It's fantastic, but you through the survey you explained that you had different feelings of the extent to which corporate social media contributed to your engagement. So by having this kind of an approach, corporate social media has a lot of chances to help companies leverage, mobilize it to reach better employee engagement. Senda, anything to add?
Just a final word. So thank you. It was extremely interesting. I wanted to highlight the importance of technology, and you talked about it in the beginning. So I feel we were lucky because first we are in the software industry, and lucky as well because we had the culture and the tools to collaborate. So we are using, all the stuff, Workplace, Confluence, SharePoint, Teams, Slack, Jira, etc. So it was immediate for us. So when the crisis came, we were ready. We had just a few licenses to add in our VPN to allow more connections, but people have mobile phones, laptops. We have voice over IP to get to keep continuity to phone support. So when clients call, so they can reach us at home. We deliver remote services to our clients. So technology is also key. This is the complementarity between the culture and the technology.
Okay, thank you so much. So now, before moving to the questions, I want to launch a final quick survey just to figure out whether the takeaways are here or not. So a quick survey, please. Now, thanks to what you saw, do you feel now that corporate social media can be mobilized to help employees engage more in their organization? So a quick survey. Let's wait additional seconds just to have to make sure that we have exhaustive votes. Okay, thank you so much for engaging in the vote. So actually, the good news is that previously we had somehow the third who feel that corporate social media has no impact on engagement, and now we have more than the half, actually 56%, who feel now after the webinar that corporate social media can participate to enhancing corporate employee engagement, and 44% think that probably it can enhance. So so it the first one, it moved actually from 29% to 56%. So I hope that this means that somehow the webinar helped you see the extent to which corporate social media can participate in a significant way to enhance employees' engagement. Any question at this stage? Okay, so for your information, if there is no specific question, I think that this is a sign that the message was clear. But if any question pop in your mind in the future, and you are willing to to pursue the conversation, feel free to contact me to chat or to share anything about corporate social media. Actually, I have been working on the topic of corporate social media in my research over the last 5 years, and I teach social network analytics at EDHEC Business School, and both corporate social media in general, and social network analytics actually has become somehow a new pillar of the human resource discipline. So actually, the existing HR dashboard are very interesting, but definitely the new HR dashboard I'm suggesting is expected to add somehow a new level of social network analytics, and this can be achieved in a significant way through the use of the system data from corporate social media, which I believe can really change the situation for managers, executives willing to learn more about the engagement of their employees. So I think that we have reached the end of our webinar. So let me thank you so much for joining us for the webinar. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your interest in the topic. Thank you for your participation, and best wishes. Thank you very much. Senda, I want also to thank you for joining us.
Thank
Senda Boukef from Primeur about this interesting topic of using social media to help boosting employee engagement. Thank you. Best wishes to all of you.
Bye.